Hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Warden. I'm very glad to see you again. Obviously, as you know, I'm the president of the Washington Association of Retired School Personnel, and I welcome you all to today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and later a link will be sent to all of our members with email. The video will also be posted on our website, www.warsp.org. If you have a question for us, just type it in the chat window. To find the chat window, click on the chat button. On a laptop or desktop computer, the chat button is on the bottom of your screen. And on an iPad, it's on the top right of the screen on a tablet and under the More button, which is 3 little dots on your screen. If a chat window should appear in the middle of your screen, you can drag it to the side to get it out of the way. The first item on our agenda today is a legislative report from our legislative ambassador, Judy Hart. Judy? Judy, you're still muted.
Sorry. I just wanted to let everybody know that we will be sending out all this information that we go over today and the links in an email to everyone. Our MIPSR school retirement system currently has an unfunded liability debt that will be paid off by the year 2038. The definition of unfunded liability refers to the future costs that may not be covered by the present assets. This became a problem during the Engler years when he decided not to cover the cost of our health care in 1991 and 92. In 1994, with the introduction of Proposal A, the state shifted the responsibility of funding MIPSRs to the public schools. At one time, our MIPSR fund was the highest performing pension fund of any kind in America, earning 11.7% of a rate of return. But then the legislator ruled the fund was only to allow it to earn 8% return. And now they proposed a rate return of 6.8%. Presently, Marsp and Warsp are watching 3 bills in the State House that will put changes into law as to how and when the pension fund will pay our unfunded liability debt down. With no good rationale for these bills proposed by Representatives Albert and Paquette, we need to keep an eye on these bills. The first bill is House Bill 4261. And I don't know what happened, but I lost my.
That's because I put up the screen sharing for the bills.
And now I don't have my script. Let me get
You
out.
can slide, might be able to slide this out of your way, or I can close it.
Can you close it?
Yep.
Oh, wait, I got it now.
Okay.
Well, I did. Sorry. I had a copy of it. I've got to go back.
I'll just stop screen sharing.
Okay.
Everything's going to be sent out by an attachment anyway, so you'll get all these numbers and links.
House Bill 4261, sponsored by Albert. This bill amends the Public School Employee Retirement Act to require that the pension and retiree health care payroll growth assumption rates for the reporting unit will be 2.25% for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. For subsequent fiscal years, the bill will retain the current requirement that the payroll growth assumption will be reduced annually by 50 basis points until the rate is 0. The second bill, House Bill 4263, sponsored by Paquette. This bill amends the Public School Employees Retirement Act to adapt layered amortization, reducing the time frame over which a deficiency in the actuarial determined contribution must be paid. It requires that the most recent mortality tables provided by the Actuarial Standards Board be used and implements a reduced cap for some assumed rate of return and discount rate. The third bill, House Bill 4188, sponsored also by Albert, there's no official summary at this time. We do have a link for everybody when we send it out, and there's no House fiscal agency analysis. So we ask that you please call Representative Albert's office, and we'll give you the phone number, and ask that this analysis be made available to the public. We will also be watching several other bills that potentially could be advantageous to retirees. And we will also be sending out those bill numbers and links to those bills. We suggest that you call your own legislator as well as the members of the Appropriations Committee to let them know to leave our pension and health care alone. We think that decreasing the rate of return even further, as well as adding layered amortization, will hurt MIPSR's ability to pay back the debt by 2038 and will take future money from the school aid fund. All this information with the links will be sent out to all members with an email, and we'll send the video of today's Zoom meeting. If you have questions about these bills, feel free to contact Warsp and your legislator. I would also like to thank John Boblet, Lori Williams, Al Dubrook, Sherry Warden, Royce Hum, Matt Curta for the help in getting this information together. I would especially like to thank Lori Williams for researching all these bills and editing them for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. I know you spent a lot of time preparing that, and we appreciate it. I'm now going to ask Linda Soper to give us the results of our recent election.
Hello there. We had 144 people vote. The results were unanimous. Our president going forward continues to be Sherry Warden. Carol Ladley will continue as vice president, and the proposed changes to the bylaws were approved.
Isn't that amazing? Such unanimity of opinion. Wonderful. So you all know me, I'm Sherry Warden, and I'm happy to serve as president for the next 2 years. I'm going to ask now for each of our officers to introduce themselves and say just a bit about their background so you can meet them on Zoom. Carol?
Hello, everyone. I think I've unmuted myself here.
Yep.
Hopefully, you'll recognize my name, Carol Ladley, from all the Warsp emails in your inbox. I'm happy to continue to serve as Warsp Vice President for another 2 years. And I also plan to continue sending out those Warsp email messages for our group. I was asked to share some personal background information for you. I retired 13 years ago from teaching over 35 years of high school mathematics, 30 years of which was at Ann Arbor Huron High School. I've been volunteering on the Warsp board in various positions for over 10 years. I'm thankful for all the help from other Warsp board members and also the help from the main MARPS organization. It's been a very trying time for all of us. I'm looking forward to being able to once again meet in person. If you ever have any comments or questions regarding MARPS or WARPS, please don't hesitate to email me, and thank you for your continued support of both organizations. Next, I want to introduce Pat. Pat, you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Carol, and good morning, everyone. I'm Pat Drabont, and I serve our association as both secretary and editor of our newsletter. My public school credentials include being an administrator in continuing education at Wayne County Community College in Detroit for 20 years. Prior to those years at the community college, I was a substitute teacher in Van Buren and Cherry Hill school districts while completing my bachelor's degree at Eastern Michigan University. And I was a substitute teacher in the Riverview Community School District while earning a master's degree at Wayne State University. After my years at the community college, I again turned to being a substitute, this time as a parapro and in secretarial positions in Jackson Public Schools. Because of my background, this might be a good time to remind everyone that the Michigan Association of Retired School Personnel, and therefore our local chapter, promotes and supports the rights and needs of all retired public school personnel, including those who held positions other than teacher. So please help us spread that word. And now I'd like to introduce to you a fellow board member, Mark Davids.
Hey there, I am Mark Davids, and I'm very pleased to be surrounded by a team of talented and dedicated educators here. We've got a great team, and my responsibilities as treasurer basically pay the bills. In addition to that, I help set the budget for the next fiscal year. And on top of that, Area 24 Director. Let's see, as an Area 24 Director, which includes Washtenaw and Monroe County, I represent you and our board at the state level. A bit of background, I was at Grosse Pointe South High School for many, many years, total of 37 years at Davison and then Grosse Pointe. And I taught physics to some of the greatest kids in the world in a great community, and there was a lot of support for education in Grosse Pointe. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce the featured video. Every year, the group at Lansing puts together a video for all of our members. And let's see, this year Royce Hum is going to be in charge of that, but I want to encourage everybody to hang in there through the video, because as you watch the video, you may have some questions. And if you would either write those down or just put them in the chat room, we'll talk about those at the end of the video. Additionally, Sherry Warden would like to survey the group in terms of what their wants and needs and desires are for the future. And that's going to be really important to help us set a direction, set the tone for the next year. I would ask if Linda Soper, who is our talented technical support director, Linda, could you call up the video, please?
We can't hear it, Linda.
Still no sound. Linda Soper, we still no sound.
In a different way. For many, they had to learn new skills.
Sounds back.
Do you have sound now? I can restart it.
Yes, we do have
Yes.
sound now.
Oh, okay, hang, bear with me a second.
We'll get there.
On time with minimal instruction. While it was an obstacle, hello members, I'm Royce Hum, and I have the distinct honor to serve you as the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Retired School Personnel. This year's annual video, like so many things this past year, will be different. Although we had to approach the video differently, the goal remains the same of sharing insight from leaders and providing timely information. While this past year has been challenging, it's also been a time for reflection, resilience, and innovation. Due to the pandemic, the staff had to find new ways to get work done. While it created many challenges, it also created opportunities to modernize our processes and workflows. Our committee and board members had to meet in a different way. For many, they had to learn new skills in a short amount of time with minimal instruction. While it was an obstacle, it was also progress in creating new approaches to meetings. Our chapters have been creative in meeting members' needs, and you'll hear from some chapter leaders today on how they took various approaches to connecting to and meeting with members. Last year, I shared with you that we started a strategic planning process that gives us a multi-year framework to best serving members. It was adopted by our board of directors in March of 2020. We have 3 strategies that we're committed to for the next few years. One is to create a more personalized experience for our members. While we are united in a single mission, we have individual needs and preferences, and we need the appropriate systems and processes in place to best serve those needs. Another strategy is to build on member value. While our members continue to tell us they appreciate the advocacy work, the regular printed and digital communications, and discounts on products and services, we want to continue to build on the value of being a member of our organization. In addition to improving on our digital newsletter, The Vision, in our printed newsletter, the Vanguard, we've also added highly rated webinars as a new and additional approach for communication. Stay tuned as we continue to build on the value of our membership. Finally, our third strategy is to create a continuous improvement process where we seek input from key stakeholders and adapt the organization based on needs of our members. We've already begun this process and will continue to refine the process as we get new tools in place in the coming year. I'm proud to report that while the pandemic has given us additional challenges, our strategic plan is still relevant and we continue to make good progress on our work. Thanks to the tireless efforts of our leaders across the organization, a talented staff, and to dedicated members like you, we continue to be a premier organization serving Michigan's public school retirees. To stay up to date on the latest information, be sure to watch for our quarterly printed publication, The Vanguard. Visit our website at www.marsp.org and follow us on social media. When renewing your membership, ensure we have your current email address, as we also send digital newsletter each month called The Vision. Next, we'll share an interview I had with Anthony Estelle, Executive Director of the Office of Retirement Services. The Office of Retirement Services administers the pension and health plans of various funds, including the Michigan Public School Employees Retirement System. Hello, Anthony. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a couple of questions that we want to touch base with you on. One is just kind of reflecting on what a year it has been. Can you give our members some insight into how the Office of Retirement Services approaches the pandemic and the support that Mr.'s retirees receive, particularly in their healthcare?
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I mean, obviously this was a year unlike any other. And so we worked very closely with our insurance vendor partners because we wanted to ensure that members continued to get the services they needed, even in the midst of this pandemic. We knew people had very valid concerns about going to the doctor and things like that, but people needed to continue to do that to maintain their health. So we worked with our vendors to provide some waivers in a number of places, just in the hope that to eliminate as many barriers as we could, really, for people to seek necessary service. So there was a lot of energy towards telehealth. The telehealth has just really exploded. So we provided cost share waivers for telehealth, both for behavioral and physical medicine. And then we also provided those waivers for in-office visits, because there are certain things that telehealth can't do. Examinations that need to happen, diagnostic services that need to happen in the office. So we wanted to work with our vendors to provide pathways for our members to go seek those medically necessary services, even in the midst of the pandemic.
Great. Thank you for that insight, Anthony. I'd like to go a little bit further behind the scenes, a little bit for our members. I know a lot goes into the process of monitoring and updating the healthcare plans for retirees. Could you share with some of our members the process that ORS and MIPSers goes through to review and update the coverage plans and how decisions are made throughout that process?
Sure. So a couple things to keep in mind is that our overall goal is to provide a high quality plan that remains affordable for both the members and the employers who pay for it. So that's always something that's part of our equation. And when we look at the costs, when we want to keep it affordable, our cost goal is we're trying to maintain the growth of the costs in the plan essentially equal to the regular rate of inflation. So that's even less than what healthcare inflation is. So we try to keep a very aggressive cost goal just to keep those costs down and keep the plan affordable for everyone involved. We use mechanisms like cost avoidance and cost reduction. And lastly, if we have to, we use cost sharing as ways to deal with that cost side of the equation. And there's a number of mechanisms that can go into that, and things that we can, and levers that we can pull, ensuring that the plan receives the maximum reimbursements from the federal government, increasing or encouraging members to seek preventative medicine or vaccines, because those have a reduction in cost for the plan, because a person who doesn't ever get sick saves the overall plan money. And then lastly, if we need to, we do look at the cost sharing, premiums, co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance, things like that. But that's always our last resort in the equation. So our general process is typically an every 2-year process. And in normal years and cycles, that's what we follow. And all of our vendors have in their contracts requirements to bring forward to us recommendations for enhancements to the plan or places where the plan could reduce costs or avoid costs, like I mentioned earlier. The vendors all have that in their contracts. So as we go through our 2-year process, they bring this information to us. Our staff also collect ideas, looking at industry trends, and also taking member feedback. When we hear from members, when they're requesting, can a particular service be covered? Can a drug be added to the formulary? Those things are all brought into the equation. And then, we bring it in, we look at our cost goals, we look at the growth, the costs, and the plans, and we develop a package that will have enhancements to the plan, changes to the plan, and potentially things that need to come out of the plan. Most often that might be in the prescription drug arena, especially because the drugs are constantly changing and improving. So there may be a particular drug that was in the plan, but now it's been replaced by a more effective drug or a generic drug that's dramatically lower in cost. So all of those things kind of come into the soup. The staff put this together and we present the plan then to the board and then to the department, because those two entities, the Department of Technology Management and Budget and the Administrator's Board, are responsible for the approval of the plan. They'll provide us some preliminary approval, and then we'll go out and seek public comment. We hold meetings in normal times. We hold meetings so that the public can come in, members and other members of the public, and provide us feedback on the proposed plan. We'll go back and make any tweaks based on some of those suggestions and ideas, and we'll present that final plan to the board and to the department. And typically then that gets approved and then is implemented in January 1st of the following year.
Great. Well, as always, Anthony, thank you for your leadership and taking the time to speak with our members today. Thank you very much. I'm glad you could meet Anthony and learn more about the approach that Office of Retirement Services takes to pandemic response and the process that they go through to monitor, evaluate, and update the health plans. In the next segment, I interviewed chapter leaders from across the state as they approach meetings and events in various ways. First, we'll hear from Jacqueline Andresen. Jacqueline is the Vice President of the Marquette chapter, and she'll share with us their experience transitioning to outdoor chapter meetings. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Could you briefly tell us why your chapter decided to serve members by meeting outside?
The main reason, we wanted people to be together and feel comfortable and be able to social distance, enjoy company of fellow retirees, and also enjoy the beautiful gardens. We thought it would be safe and be socially distanced and enjoy their time.
Great. What were some of the considerations that you took as you met in person at the park?
What we did is considerations. We set up some picnic tables. We had those spread out. We had everything wiped down. And chairs, we had chairs that were sanitized. And we encouraged people to bring their own lawn chair if they felt that that would be more safe. And then the outside atmosphere, they were wearing face masks. And this is another thing that we did. Registration was $5. And we encouraged people to bring their $5 and not, need change, and then to stick the $5 in a box so there wasn't any handling of money. So that worked out really well for us too.
Great. What were some of the takeaways from the meeting?
Very, very positive. We had, I don't know if I mentioned, we had individually wrapped bakery treats for everyone and bottled water. And we also had coffee with, styrofoam cups set apart so they could get their own coffee, and had like napkins or whatever that people needed so they weren't touching anything. And we had hand sanitizer as well. People enjoyed the gardens. The gardens are beautiful. And we also had a Tai Chi, similar to exercise program yoga. A friend of one of the board members toward the end of our meeting did that. It's more relaxing, exercising. And she did a wonderful job, and we all enjoyed it immensely. The atmosphere was so nice because we could spread out, and we had enough room, and we were outside enjoying ourselves, the company.
Great. Thank you for the time, Jackie.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Deb Herrick. In addition to being an area and regional director for our state association, he is also the co-president of the Ottawa chapter. They had a meeting outdoors as well as one indoors. Let's learn about their experience. Hi, Deb.
Right.
Could you briefly describe for us why your chapter decided to serve members by meeting in person?
Yeah, we wanted to meet in person one more time. Since we were not able to meet in the spring at all, we thought that it would be good to do it in the fall since the governor allowed us to get together with 50 people out in the park. So we got together one time in the park, and then as it got colder, we decided to try one inside. People had a choice to be virtual if they chose to, but we decided that we could still get together since the governor said we could be inside with 30 people at that time.
Okay. What were some of the considerations that you took as you met in person?
Well, what we did was we used this guideline that we were given through Mars. And one of the things was definitely to know where people were sitting and during our meeting, so that if somebody would get COVID, they could call us, and then we would, of course, inform the rest of the members that were there that they needed to be tested. But that didn't happen, thank goodness. And we did have a great time. We also had to make sure that we had box lunches and bottled water. Nothing was literally shared. And everyone wore their masks. And we had, Royce was our person to be our speaker that day. So that was great.
And what were some of the takeaways that you had from meeting in person?
Well, meeting in person was good for us because, again, that's what we enjoy to do. We like to have lunch together, and it's just fun for us. And one thing, too, again, our big picture was that we wanted to have Royce meet the people, but since he couldn't come in person, we decided that it would be great, to do some virtually. And again, some members chose to watch it virtually also.
Okay. Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Sherry Warden. Sherry is the president of the Warsp chapter. In this past year, they approached their meetings by using online meeting tools. Hi, Sherry. Can you briefly tell us about why your chapter decided to serve your members by meeting virtually?
After hearing about the COVID shutdown, we canceled our April and May general membership meetings and did not try to find another way to hold those meetings. We decided to hold board meetings digitally, first practicing a lot to be sure that all board members were comfortable with meeting that way. By the fall, we had time to plan for general membership meetings. Our October program in an election year has always been a candidates forum with the Republican and Democratic candidates for the Michigan legislature on a panel to answer both questions given them in advance and questions from our in-person audience. It was clear that we should not do in-person meetings this time, even if venues were open. We opted to hold the forum as a Zoom webinar. It was challenging since we would have 8 candidates speaking as well as a moderator. We were already comfortable using Zoom for meetings, but we held several practice sessions for the candidates forum webinar. Then in December, we held a second general membership meeting via Zoom with a talk by State Senator Jeff Irwin.
Great. What were some of the considerations that you took as you were meeting virtually?
Well, as I said, we prepared ourselves for meeting digitally and specifically practiced for the webinar. We publicized each meeting at least 3 times by email and in our print newsletter. Following the meeting, we shared the recording of the meeting by email and posted it on our website. We also included a summary of the meeting in our print newsletter.
Great. And what were some of the takeaways that you had from your meetings?
Well, using a digital platform for our general membership meetings and the webinar allowed us to stay in touch with our membership even when we weren't meeting in person. Although the number of members viewing the live Zoom meetings was fewer than we would have had at an in-person event, Other members did watch the recording of the talk. At our virtual meetings, we definitely had some members attending for the first time. And while we usually hold 2 spring general membership meetings, this year we have added a 3rd spring meeting, all by Zoom.
Great. Thanks for sharing your experiences, Sherry.
I was happy to talk to you.
Next, we'll hear from Joan Turner. Joan is the membership chair for the Genesee Southeast chapter. They host an annual event that, with some modifications this year, they were able to continue to host with great success. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Royce.
Could you tell us about the event that your chapter held this year and why you decided to continue to have it?
Well, every year our chapter collects gifts from a membership and money. So we can buy gifts if we don't get enough. And we knew there was a need this year. So we decided we were going to hold this event. We did it through mass mailing, email, knowing they don't all read their emails. We also sent out postcards to all our membership.
What were some of the considerations that you took for your event this year?
Well, we had to decide how we were going to get donations and where we were going to store these gifts, when they would drop them off, and things like that. And follow the protocols. We couldn't wrap as a group anymore. So we did it this way.
And what were some of the takeaways that you had for your event?
Well, what we learned, the biggest thing was there were people that never got involved in this project because they don't come to meetings. So this was a way they didn't have to come to a meeting, but they got involved and they would say, I've never done this before. So this might be a thing the way we might do it every year.
Great. Thanks, Joan.
Thanks. You're welcome.
As you can see, there were different approaches each chapter implemented to still hold effective meetings during this past year. I'm glad you were able to hear from some of our local leaders as they shared their experiences. I hope you found this video to be helpful and informative. Our future looks bright thanks to the service and commitment of members like you. If you appreciate what you see in this video and want to see more, please let us know. I also ask that you share your positive experiences with others so we can continue to grow our organization together. On behalf of the staff and our statewide leadership teams, thank you for being a member of an organization that makes a positive difference in the lives of public school retirees. We look forward to this next year as we strive to help you make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Thank you, Linda, for correcting all of those difficulties we had. We got the hearing, we got to hear Royce, and we got to see a few of the chapters. Of course, Washtenaw chapter has always been a leader in the state. We have a tradition of excellence, and we're continuing that. I was asked to review the chat room, and I see a couple of questions here. One question has to do with, is there anything else that we want to talk about here that we did differently this year? And so I'll address those, and then I'm going to give it over to, then there are a couple more questions that we'll take up. One thing we did differently this year, because we could not meet everybody in person, we decided to put together a 3rd newsletter. This is the first time we've done that, and I think our members appreciated that. Another thing was that we usually subsidize the lunches at Weber's. And since we did not meet at Weber's, we had a little bit of extra money. And of course, we're a nonprofit, so we wanted to use that money. And we do have a team of people on our board that look at the children's literacy. And we decided to give more money to that particular project. And another thing that some of you may know about is called Donors Choose. Donors Choose allows individuals to select individual projects from teachers. And so we upped that budget. We gave them $1,000. And I know people on the board have individually given over $1,000 to Donors Choose. So those are a few things that we did differently this year. I happen to know those because I am the treasurer and I get to write the bills and write the checks. And so that's been a good time. One question that came up in the chat room was about ORS, and apparently there's been some difficulty with the hearing aid coverage. And Judy Hart, I think, was particularly interested in that. Judy, would you give your question out loud, and then any follow-up that you might suggest for the hearing aid?
Well, I don't actually need them right now, although I've investigated them because I may need them in the future, but I understand that True Hearing is what everybody has right now. And before this, I don't know how many years ago, Linda might know that, that you used stipend of how much you could take with you. And I just think it would be the right thing to do. Stipend if you want to go to get it, because I went through the True Hearing and I didn't think treated very well because they don't necessarily pay these people very much. And so they basically told me, that they wouldn't, they only get a little bit of money. And so then after 3 visits, if you go in to get them to be, fitted, you have to pay for each visit after that. And I would rather go to some place that you don't have to pay those extra visits. It's included. Usually it's a 3-year warranty on your hearing aids. But anyway, I don't see why it can't be maybe a smaller amount of money, but at least something towards what you're getting. And so I actually called ORS to talk about something else, and I brought it up. And I thought if we all did that, it might change. I don't think it would cost them that much. And if they don't know it's a problem, they're not going to change it. And a lot of people get theirs at different places. So it's really an individual thing. So.
Thank you, Judy. I think I'm going to give the floor back to Sherry, our president. And Sherry, can you talk about some of the things that we might need to talk about as a group going forward and some decisions we need to make, Sherry?
I would like to, but there was one more question from Lynn Kamansky about where to find the virtual meetings and videos, which I think you mean the ones that Warsp had, the different Warsp webinars. Is that what you meant, Lynn?
Also, I wanted to make sure that our members knew where to find our own videos that we,
Okay. So that was more in your mind?
Sure, that people know where to go and how to access those on our YouTube channel.
Well, why don't you explain that?
Okay. So any of the recordings and videos that we make, as well as our newsletter, is all uploaded to our website, which you can find at warsp.org. And if you look on the homepage, there's a link to our YouTube channel, and you can click on that, and then you can access any of the videos of our meetings or membership events that we have recorded. And also on that webpage is our newsletters are always posted as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right, before we go on to collecting comments and suggestions from you people, I would, first Linda Soper is going to set out a quick 2-question poll about, are you likely to want to go to Weber's for an in-person meeting in the fall? And then a second question on the spring. So she's going to send that now, and it'll be a quick answer. And then she can share the results of that.
Okay,
Linda,
people
clicking. Oh, I
yes,
see.
people are responding to the poll.
Okay, good. I may have voted several times. All right, and you'll end it then when you're ready. So that part's fine. And in a minute, she'll share those results. So then the other question we had for our audience is, are there additional issues you would like Warsp to be addressing? Help us to help you, let us know what you're thinking. And then more specifically, do you have other suggestions for programs, activities, or newsletter content? So I think the easiest thing here will be if you just wave your hand on the screen, or you can send it in the chat window, either one. And Judy Hart did just share the Warsp website for their webinars that were recorded.
Okay, we've had 18 out of 21 participants respond, because I'm seeing the poll results. I don't get the poll, so that could be why not everybody has responded. The first question, do you think you'll be comfortable attending meetings at Weber's in the fall of 2021? And 33% voted yes, 22 no, and 44% are unsure. And then the question 2, do you think you will be comfortable attending meetings at Weber's in the spring of 2022? And there we had 67% say yes, and the remaining people said unsure.
All right, and we're probably going to send this out as an email survey as well, since who we have today is sort of a small percentage of our membership. So we will collect more information on that. And we are in negotiations with Weber's, but nothing's finalized yet. All right. So other questions? Mark raised his hand a minute ago. Also, a few people who are not sharing video are going to have to share it if they want to make a comment. If you don't want to make a comment, that's fine. So Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind people that they can go to the chat window and put their questions in the chat window if they're too shy to raise their hand or to ask their questions out loud. And we'll paraphrase the questions if need be, but we'll make sure we get the intent of the questions out there.
And I also want to mention to people that, since I send out those emails to our email group, anytime you have comments or suggestions, email me back as I look at those.
And share them too when it's
right,
when you want to share them on to someone.
Sherry,
Also, yeah,
Sherry, this is Paula.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
thank you.
When you asked the question about whether anyone had suggestions for meetings or the newsletter, did you also mention any speakers they might like to hear from?
That would be great. Speakers or topics, and speakers are very helpful when we're trying to find one. And we have some ideas already, but we haven't set up our full program for next year. And then we keep this list going like sourdough. We just keep adding in more ideas as they come along, so we don't lose any. But I'm not really seeing anybody raise their hand. So I think we can go on.
You know what? If anyone thinks of anything, perhaps they can email you or send it to the website.
Both of those would be good. Emailing me would probably be better. And I use, for this purpose, I use the email sherrywarden@gmail.com. And it's been in the newsletter, and I know almost everybody on the screen personally. So I think you could get there. So yes, that would be just fine. And it doesn't have to be like tomorrow. It could be in the middle of the summer. You say, oh, why don't we talk about this? So I want to thank you guys who are here. Thank the board members who worked to make this program possible, including Linda Soper for hosting the virtual meeting, Carol Ladley and Pat Drebant for their great job with communication with you, our members, and especially Judy Hart that worked at the legislative team that worked very hard for this. There is a question here from Marla. It seems like many people are or have retired this year or last school year. A lot of people retired because of the strain of this. Do we have a plan to start identifying a plan to engage with them? So the way this works is we have to wait. ORS will eventually send names and addresses of new retirees to Warsp, and then Warsp shares them to their database, and they send out a roster of new retirees, but it takes almost a year before that gets posted. The other thing we can do as individuals is contact our, like for quite a while after I retired, I would contact Human Relations or just somebody I knew where I worked or in some of the other districts where I went to and ask them for the names of new retirees. And then I would, very often they wouldn't give me addresses, but if I brought them letters, they would address them and mail them for me. So that would be another suggestion for that.
Gary, this would be a good time to mention the school ambassador program, because that is a process by which we can identify retirees much earlier.
That is an excellent idea. And I think I'll call on Lynn Kamansky to do that too. She's still with us? Yeah, there she is. No.
So the School Ambassador Program, if you've read it in the newsletter, we've had it published a few times, a couple of articles on it, was started right before COVID got underway. We were just getting going, and basically it's people who are part of the organization and maybe have a connection with a school district that you're familiar with can arrange to go into the school district and do a short presentation or even send emails or information to the districts that they know. That way informing some close to be retired people or even current staff members of the organization. And then if they have questions, they can get back with whoever the ambassador is. We've done one pilot program with the Milan area schools, but we would like to expand this as soon as COVID is done and we can start getting back into the schools to do some personal connections with our former districts. So if anybody out there has a district that they're familiar with and would be interested in maybe making some connections on behalf of Warsp and Marsp, you can certainly contact us and we will get you all set up and trained. This kind of led into our work with Donors Choose, where we started to do some funding of small projects that were related to the schools that we are working with school ambassador programs. So hopefully there's some of you out there that would be willing to step up and do this. We always like to have new folks take on even small roles like this. And I think in the chat, maybe someone might be putting something in where you can get back with us if you're interested.
And also when we do the Donors Choose as an organization, or when I do it personally, we tell them this is from the Washington Association for Retired School Personnel, part of Marsp, and we encourage them to tell people, share the information with their staff that they're working with, and particularly anybody approaching retirement. And we also include our website. It makes you feel really good too, because they send very nice thank you notes, and sometimes they have pictures of using the equipment that you helped pay for. So it's a very worthwhile organization. In doing thanks, I also want to thank again Judy Hart and the legislative team, and the link to this recording will be sent out on our website, which will to all email members, so that even if they weren't here today, they have an opportunity to hear this presentation. And along with that, we will send an attachment with fuller information on what Judy was reporting on. At our next Warsp virtual meeting on Friday, May 7th, State House Democratic leader Donna Lisinski will discuss pensions, retirement benefits, education, and other current issues in the House. We hope you will be able to join us for that presentation. You'll be receiving emails about it, and I thank you for being here today.